This is the FRC Roundtable, coming to you all the way from Minnesota. Your host team 2052 Nightcrawler presents this weekly FRC gathering where FIRST robotics competition teams take cooperation off the field. Share your knowledge, give and get advice, solve a challenge, or celebrate what makes your team special. 3, 2, 1, go!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FRC Roundtable. My name is Scott Davis. I'm a mentor for Team 2052.
And I'm Everett. I'm a junior in the CAD for Team 2052. We would like to welcome you to tonight's FRC Roundtable. But before we get started, we have a few housekeeping notes that we would like to go over. The Roundtable is recorded for YouTube, so we would love to have everyone share their camera if they are comfortable, especially when you are talking. But with that being said, though, we also want to respect student privacy. So if you are not comfortable with doing that, feel free to keep your camera off and change the name in your Google Meet session to your first name or just your initials. Participation in the Roundtable is voluntary. However, you must be 13 years or older to participate. You can see our website for more information about the FRC Roundtable, including our complete privacy policy at team2052.com/roundtable. You can also join our mailing list and sign up your team to host a future Roundtable call. Finally, be sure to follow our podcast on Spotify. We also have a new segment that we'd like to call What's on the Wiki. Every week, we kind of show off something new. So if I can share my screen. This week's highlight is about CNCing. So we have this technical tab, and this shows us all of our setup, our best practices, and also our supplies and our sources for things. So hopefully this will help anyone hoping to get into CNCing or improving their CNCing. And I believe that's it. Tonight's call will be hosted by Mahi from Team 2531 RoboHawks about the first Dean's List. Mahi, feel free to introduce yourself, and the show is yours.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, everyone. Hi, nice to be here. My name is Mahi. From Team 2531 RoboHawks, and I should probably get the presentation started, screen sharing. Okay, looks great. Sounds great. So my name is Mahi. I am a senior at Chaska High School on 2531 RoboHawks. I happen to be a 2025 First Robotics Competition Dean's List Award winner back in April at the Houston Championship. And just some notes before we start the presentation. Based upon the outcome of the presentation, just want to talk about the outcome, is that this presentation is for anybody that is considering to be nominated for the Dean's List Award. This is mentors, this is students who kind of might not have so much information on the process, and they want to know what are the timelines like? Who are good students to be nominated for the award? So we'll go over all of that. We'll go over the process. I gave this talk at Jumpstart Medtronic last weekend, and I will also be giving this talk, a condensed version of it, at the Mini Regional. Then, yeah, I think we can just get started. So this, first of all, is a journey that the first Dean's List Award has taken me on. Some notable figures there, but it's just been a wild ride the past 1 year. In this presentation, my goal isn't just to tell you how to win the award. It's really not how to win the award at all, because I really can't give advice on that aspect of it, but it's to help you understand why this recognition is so meaningful and why every team should be nominating their leaders for it. And really, this is a presentation about storytelling, how to tell the most passionate, the most authentic story you can, and how do you do it in a time limit. So the Dean's List Award represents something much deeper than robot performance or competition results. It represents the people who make FIRST what it is, right? It's the students who lead, mentor, teach, and inspire their teams and communities. And so by the end of the presentation, I hope you'll not only know how to navigate for mentors the essay and for students the interview process, but also feel motivated to recognize the incredible leaders on your own teams. And I can guarantee you there are incredible leaders on every single team. Because behind every successful team, there's always that one student or a few whose quiet dedication makes everything possible. And like many of you, I've lived the full, first experience. And so, I didn't know anything about the award back in 8th, ninth grade. I really didn't start thinking about it until I was really nominated. So I hope all of you guys have a better head start on that than I did. But really what I've come to realize is that first is definitely not about the robots. It's just the robots are just purely a medium. It's really the people, right? It's really the growth that you see in students. And so Dean's List Award, it captures exactly that. It's a recognition of those journeys. And as someone who's gone through the process, I can say that the award means a lot more than some certificate. I think that it's mainly the recognition that my team gave me by nominating me, by saying, hey, I see what you're doing, right? So I'm just here to help you see how meaningful that process is. Going through the origins of the first Dean's List Award, it was introduced in 2010 by Dean Kamen, and he wanted a way to celebrate student leadership on a more personal level, right? Because up to that point, there was the Woody Flowers Award. There was, I think there was EI. There was definitely the Impact Award. Woody Flowers recognized the mentors, mentors that are the role models for all the other mentors. Impact Award embodied the ideals that all teams could aspire to accomplish. But what Dean Kamen realized was that the spirit of first, it's often carried by individuals, right? It's students who take the initiative to lead, to teach, and advocate for STEM in their schools and communities. And one more thing is that you had mentors and you had sponsors and you had teams that lasted for more than 4 years. Mentors, they stayed for more than 4 years. They don't have to graduate from anywhere. They can stay on teams for even decades if they wanted to. But after the 4 years that students stay on their teams, there really is, they started losing track of those students. Like, what are they doing? And just the concept of this is that all the colleges, really any college, they all have alumni. And they have alumni associations. They have ways to track those alumni. And when you go, you try to go and get a job or really anything that requires an application, you're telling them, oh, I went to WPI, I went to Yale, I went to Harvard, I went to Stanford. They know what that is because, there have been more and more alumni. There's been a lot of effort to keep that organization going. And so he created this award to mirror the concept of a dean's list in universities. But instead of it being for academic excellence, it recognizes leadership, inspiration, and commitment to FIRST's core values, and this is purely for individuals. And in FIRST's own words, the award celebrates outstanding student leaders whose passion for and effectiveness at attaining FIRST ideals is exemplary. And that means that Dean's List isn't about perfect grades at all. It's not about being the best machinist on your team. It's not about being the smartest on your team. It means embodying the ideals of FIRST, right? You love teamwork. You love including people. You love inspiring people. And you're helping others see what's possible through STEM. And so this award is meant to honor the next generation of those leaders. So the Dean's List Award has a very specific purpose, and it's to shine a spotlight on the individuals who exemplify everything this organization stands for. It celebrates students who don't just talk about leadership, they live leadership every day. And the ones who welcome new members, who volunteer their weekends at outreach events or competitions, who teach others to code, things like that. And what's really special about this award is that it's not tied to robot performance. And I can attest to that because at the regional where I was given the first Dean's List finalist award, our robot tipped over, wasn't looking in amazing shape. And I'm pretty sure the judges, they saw that. And they still decided to give me the award. So just a little affirmation that it's not tied to your robot performance strictly. You could have a season where your robot never left the shop, but if you had a student who inspired your entire team to keep pushing forward, that's exactly the kind of person this award recognizes. So it's not about impact. It is about impact. Impact's involved, but it's really it's about impact. It's not about the image, right? It's about how someone influences others. It's about how they bring the FIRST core values to life, and it's about how they make their community stronger through their actions. So when you nominate a student for this award, you're telling them you represent what FIRST is all about. You're the kind of leader we hope everyone in this program becomes. And I think that's why the Dean's List was so meaningful to me, because it recognizes leadership as something human, something relational. It comes from empathy. It comes from leading by example. It doesn't come from authority. And so about the nomination process and the overview of that, each FRC team can nominate up to 2 students in 10th or 11th grade. And there are 3 levels to it. The reason for that grade range is really important because FIRST wants students who still have another full year left to keep growing, leading, and representing the program, right? So these aren't necessarily the seniors that are about to leave. They're the ones who are going to carry the torch forward. And the nomination itself, it's completed through the FIRST dashboard by one of your team's lead mentors. And the submission I'll get to the real structure of the submissions and the prompts later, but the submission consists of 4,000 characters and plus 500 characters of additional information. And all of these prompts are going into specific detail about why the nominee exemplifies the Dean's List criteria. And so there's semifinalists, and that's when you're nominated by your team members. You're being put up at your regional to face judges and hopefully advance to the next level. Finalists are those that the judges select at the regional level from the semifinalists, and winners are chosen at the FIRST championship. There's no interview at the FIRST championship. It's whatever notes you had from your judges interview at the regional, and then the essay that your mentors wrote for you. And that's what the judges at the championship will see. And the mentors write the essay, but the team can have significant say in what examples you guys write about or who the team might nominate, but the mentor ultimately has to submit it and oversee that process. And then the student has a 5 to 10 minute interview at their regional. And the timeline for this is ideally fall and winter up to February of the first week of Feb. The team can nominate up to 2 per team, and that's also when the essay is due. Then at your regional, for MN teams, it's only regionals. That is where you will have your interview. And at the end of that regional, they will announce who the finalists are for the championship. And then at the World Championship, the Dean's List winners are honored on stage. So nominations really matter, right? Because I, for one, think that it strengthens your team culture. Because I think the main point of FIRST, it's inspiration and recognition. And I think this award clearly does both, right? First of all, you're recognizing student leaders that are working very, very hard on your team, and they're trying to help others. And then you're also inspiring younger members by saying, hey, here is this, older member. We're putting them up for the Dean's List Award. It embodies these ideals, and that's going to inspire the younger members to grow into their leadership roles and give back into their community, not because they want to win the award, but because they know that, they're inspired to embody those ideals. And I think it certainly empowers students to see themselves as ambassadors for STEM and for FIRST. I think I certainly grew in my capacity after I was nominated for that award and seeing the change that I could have on other people. And it has a long-term impact because many Dean's List honorees, they continue as mentors, they continue as coaches, they continue as event volunteers, they continue into permanent advocates for FIRST. Common misconceptions I've seen when teams are thinking about the Dean's List Award. First one is we don't have anyone good enough or we don't have anyone qualified. Absolutely not true. I think that everybody that is in FIRST that wants to participate in FIRST, that wants to put time into FIRST, that is there to learn, that has a great character, great attitude toward FIRST, that is a perfect person to nominate for the award because FIRST values growth, passion, and impact. It's not about perfection. You don't have to be the team captain to win the award. And then the misconception that it's too much work. It's not really too much work, but mainly I think that this should be a priority because I think one of the biggest goals of every FIRST team should be to inspire more STEM and inspire more student leaders. And also, like we debunked in a previous slide, it's not about the robot. The judges are really focusing on, yes, they're focusing on the impact that students have made on their team, on their robot, in their community. But really, I think the core of the award is why are you doing what you're doing? And what values do you have? Why do you do all the things you do for FIRST? And so those are just a little bit of the misconceptions that I've seen. So here are the official first criteria for the Dean's List Award. So at every level, this criteria applies. On your team, you can use this criteria to select who your semifinalists are going to be. They certainly use this criteria at your regionals to decide who might be the best finalist. They definitely use that criteria at the championship to see who embodies these criteria. So kind of going over them, demonstrated leadership and commitment to the first core values. And on the top right corner, you'll see the 6. That's teamwork, inclusion, impact, innovation, discovery, and fun. Effectiveness and increasing awareness of first in their school and community. And this one's really important, might be left out on a lot of teams' process when they're thinking about what examples to show when they're applying for that award. But a long-term commitment to first, right? A major goal of this award is to make sure the kids that are nominated are coming back and doing things for first. And because, to whom much is given, much is expected is kind of the motto behind this award. And the individual contributions to their team contribute to the overall success of the team. First has been pretty vocal about this. Like at your regional, when I was going and they were kind of briefing all the semifinalists on what the interview process would be like, things like that. One of the biggest things they said is, yes, we like the things that you did with your team are very, very impactful. They're very major contributions, but this award is about purely you, right? It's about the individual contributions that you have contributed to your team, and that can contribute to the overall success of the team. If they really want to know, what have you done as an individual? And this next one, proven experience in STEM. And a lot of people think that this means that you can only nominate people that have a robot role or that work on the robot for the award. That isn't necessarily true. For example, if this person, maybe they're in marketing, right? Maybe they are using Canva to make posters for recruitment at their school. That would be a great way to show that they have proven experience in STEM, because that's technology and they are, learning how to use Canva, learning how to use software to, recruit more people to STEM. So that's just, a big way. I'm sure there are more ways people can demonstrate STEM. But yeah, for a lot of finalists, the way to demonstrate STEM is to detail exactly what they've done in the robot, or maybe the growth of how much better they are at CAD, how much better they are at code, things like that. Bottom one, the student is a role model and can motivate and lead fellow team members. I think that's one's pretty self-explanatory. So breaking down this criteria more, for the first criteria, some examples of this could be for leadership is that they lead by example. Maybe they're coaching the peers on their team. They're resolving team conflicts. They embody the spirit of first. Increasing awareness of first in their school and community. They promote first through outreach, advocacy, presentations, events. I think really anything goes. You don't have to be the outreach lead on your team. It could really be if you helped organize your team's recruitment at your school fair. That is increasing awareness of first in your school and community. And inspiring others to get involved by showing the impact of STEM and robotics. Recruitment numbers play, that's a very good example here, but also maybe getting a sponsor involved in first. That is, increasing awareness of first. A passion for a long-term commitment to first. This isn't necessarily you having to commit to mentoring after college. It's not necessarily you having to volunteer at first events. It can be, you can really be honest with this. You can say, maybe I don't want to mentor during college. Maybe I just want to volunteer during college. Or maybe I don't want to do really anything under college, but after I get a few years of college under my belt, I will then look for mentoring opportunities. There's many, many different ways to show what plans you might have to engage with first after your high school career. So it's really about a lifelong mission to advance STEM. And the individual contributions to team success. So bringing ideas to life and helping teammates succeed rather than seek credit. And it could really be anything. It could be technical. It could be the work that they've done on their robot, and that contributes to their team success at a competition. It could be how they lead their teammates, or maybe how they maybe helped with the structure of your team, the way that it's organized. And being a role model and motivator, right? Like maybe you have some stories about how the semifinalist might have inspired another person on their team, elevating their team morale, encouraging all the first core values. So there's really a lot of stories you can tell. So I think that in terms of how teams should nominate their students, there's a wildly different process for every team. But one thing that's common is that you should absolutely start early. Some really structured teams, maybe they have a lot of members, they interview potential candidates or they have some kind of application. They ask students about their goals, their leadership experiences, their first impact, and then they might get together as a group of mentors and decide who is semifinalist. Some teams have students submit short applications to highlight their achievements or give speeches to the rest of their team, or have some way that they self-nominate and then the team truly nominates the student. So you might want to consider a team vote or at least a team discussion to ensure multiple perspectives are heard and the coaches can factor that into the decision. And then there's just the other method where the coaches just finalize the nominee based on the leadership, impact, and alignment with the values we talked about before. So the important part about this is that every team develops its own process. If you're a really large team, you might want to do the team voting process and the interview process. If you have a small team, your coaches might be the ones deciding. The way that your mentorship is set up, everything just affects the decision making. But the goal of this, the outcome of this is all the same, is you want to choose a student who best embodies leadership, best embodies inspiration, and just best embodies the criteria that we discussed previously. And here's what judges look for and what I think teams should look for when nominating semifinalists is, first of all, the most important thing, authenticity. That means a genuine passion for first. It's not about winning the award. It's not about rehearsing what answers sound the best or what accomplishments might be the best on that resume. It's really about how much does this person love first. It's really easy to find who is really obsessed with first, because just imagine what their lives would be like without first. The depth of impact, meaningful, long-term contributions that clearly made a difference on your team or community, and a balance of technical and leadership skills. I think the Dean's List Award is not an award that you can, fit the criteria for by purely being someone that just works on the robot by yourself. You're in the corner doing things. And it's also not something that you can do by being completely hands-off on the robot, hands-off on all of that. It's not something you can completely do outreach for, right? So I think there is a balance to be achieved. It doesn't have to be a perfect 50-50 balance, but some sort of balance. It could be 95% outreach and 5% robot, or the other way around, right? As long as there is, you have some coverage on those areas. Personal growth, right? First doesn't want, they don't need necessarily people that have achieved everything they could ever hope to achieve. Maybe it's somebody that has achieved a little bit, achieved a decent amount so far, but they have a lot of potential. They really love first. They have really good long-term plans to advance first. And maybe the growth about how they learn from mistakes, how they take feedback, how they take on new challenges. That could also be great ways to, embody growth. And yeah, embodiment of first core values, self-explanatory, and the future potential. Who is going to represent the next generation of first ambassadors? And now going into the essay specifically. So there are, I think before 2020 something, there was one giant essay. And I think that might have been maximum 4,000 characters. But after that, now there are 5 different 800 character prompts. And this is very intentional. And I'll go over the questions in just a second. But there are 5 different 800 character prompts, and each of them is asking about a different aspect of your semifinalists. And then there is 500 characters for additional information. Things like maybe you want to say how many AP classes they took or what their GPA might be. Again, not really necessary. They don't really use that as a primary factor in their decision making. Maybe they have specialized skills that aren't strictly team related, but they might want to show the judges because it adds an interesting aspect to them, or any additional extracurriculars they partake in. So yeah, the key takeaway is that the essay should capture the student's individuality and their long-term influence rather than just listing awards or listing positions, because the questions very clearly ask for specific examples, which we'll get to. How to approach the essay. The first step is to brainstorm the students' most meaningful contributions to the team, school, and community. The essay isn't super duper long, so it's not going to be very possible to say the name of every single demo the student has went to or led. It's not going to be, long enough to put in every single story about how they inspired a team member. So you want to brainstorm the most meaningful contributions that you think will hit on as much of the criteria as possible. You want to gather evidence, right? You want to collect specific examples, anecdotes. Measurable results don't necessarily matter, as in you shouldn't be super fixated on like how big is the number of how many demos they've led or any numbers like that, because it's really just, it's very holistic. The number doesn't really matter, but the anecdotes, the stories you tell, the specific examples of why this semifinalist does what they do, that's always going to be the most important. So you want to get specific in that aspect. And step 3, very key part of this, is connect this to first submission, right? You want to demonstrate, like, sure, the student has inspired this teammate. You have this story about the way that this person inspired a spark in someone. You want to tie that back to first submission and make sure that this ties back to one or some of the criteria in order to, portray your semifinalists and tell the best story you can. Step 4 is have a little bit of fun with it. Highlight personal qualities, right? The judges don't want to just know what the student has accomplished. They want to know, like, what is this student like? What kind of a leader are they? What kind of a person are they? Are they an extrovert? Are they more of a I'm the one that leads the meeting in front of the board kind of the person? Or are they someone that is a servant leader that might be doing more work behind the scenes and helping students one-on-one? So those are ways to highlight people's personal qualities. So just have fun with this aspect, I would say. And number 5 is very important, is that I guess the best way to tell your student story is to really work with your student. It's not a bad thing necessarily to just write. This is just purely my opinion. It's not a bad idea to just write the essay for your student and then just, they'll know when first sends them that email about what the essay is. But it's going to be better to ensure that the essay is accurate and that it's authentic by confirming the details, at least with the student before you submit it. Just so the student, because ultimately the student has to be the one talking about the examples in the essay with the judges at that interview. So you want to make sure that, the details actually represent who the student is. And these aren't real examples, but these are examples of strong versus weak. Maybe a weak example might be, she is a great leader who helps her team. I think that could be said really about every Dean's of semifinalist there is. It's a little bit vague. It's a little bit generic. It doesn't show a measurable impact. And notice that a measurable impact doesn't necessarily mean a number. Because when we go to a strong example, you can just see this example. Like when her team lost funding mid-season, she organized these outreach events, secured these sponsors in 2 weeks, and this made sure that the robot stayed on schedule. So first of all, it's specific. It shows a specific thing the student did. It's very action-driven because she did so-and-so. She organized this. She secured. She ensured, action words like that, and shows real-world impact, right? It's not just she organized these outreach events and secured 3 new sponsors. They're making sure to highlight that if she had not done what she did, the robot build wouldn't have stayed on schedule. So if you can notice, all of this sentence alone, it tells the judges not just that she's a great leader who helps her team, but how she's a great leader who helps her team. And they also tie those actions back to leadership, mentorship, or outreach, and it shows a very specific personal contribution. Some common pitfalls. Really, it's holistic. It's really not like, if you write it a certain way, you're not going to advance to the next level, or you aren't, going to advance. It's really just, advice that I personally have is to avoid just simply listing their positions or awards they've won or accomplishments without the context. You want to focus on stories and specific impacts they've had. And like I said, you don't want to use generic language, and don't have an overly technical focus. You should highlight the STEM skills. Those are important, but you want to balance that with leadership, teamwork, and outreach contributions. And also don't do the same thing with outreach, right? Like don't ignore the community or outreach impact, because judges are looking for impact beyond the team. Any ways you've mentored others, any ways you've advocated for STEM and inspiring others. And you don't want to exaggerate the things in your essay or be insincere or just, praise them exaggeratedly. You really want to just say, what it is that they did. What have you noticed in this student? Because that ultimately isn't really going to do anything to sway your chances of winning or whatever, because it's not about winning. You want to show genuine passion, genuine initiative. You want to paint the real picture of who the student is. The purpose of the interview overview. The purpose of the interview is basically, to put it shortly, judges want to confirm that this student is who the essay says they are, right? So in this interview, the judges want to assess the student's leadership, passion, and alignment with FIRST values in a personal setting. And I think this is really important because they're looking for FIRST ambassadors. And the best way to find out who the ambassadors are is to see how they are advocating for themselves in their interview and how great they are at communicating. It's really a lot about communication. And who conducts interviews? This is typically volunteer judges, FIRST officials in the region, or mentors that are not affiliated with your team. And what's important about this is that a lot of people think that the judges that they're talking to in their interview are the people that are making the decision about who is going to be the Dean's List finalist or who's going to be the winner, right? It's really not like that. They're really just they're trying to advocate for you. The judges there are really wanting what's best for you. They want to note down as many of the things they know about you as possible so they can paint the best picture of you when they're later going to review who the finalists are. So you don't have to be scared of them. You don't have to be nervous. They're just there to, they just want to get to know you more. So it's really not that complicated. So you don't want to be too super nervous going in. They want as much for you as a student. They're there to see you as a student grow. The interview is 5 to 10 minutes. My interview went for like 11 minutes, and it's really more of a conversation than a strict Q&A. As in, you could even ask questions to your judges if you wanted. Like at the end of my interview, I asked my judge, hey, okay, so what got you into FIRST? What was your job? What industry do you work in? Things like that, right? It's really a conversation for them to get to know you more, and you could get to know them more. But most of it's going to be to get to know you more. It's going to include questions about leadership, community outreach, STEM projects, and personal growth. And the timing is first week of February, the mentor submits the nomination essay, and then it'll happen at one of the regionals or the one regional that your team goes to. And the students should be prepared to expand on their essay, share personal stories, and highlight their impact. Because ultimately, when they're deciding who is going to advance to the next level, they want to form a complete picture. Your essay is 50%, right? You have all of what your mentors wrote about you. You don't want to just repeat what's in your essay in your interview. You can certainly expand on the things that your mentor had in your essay, like, for example, why you did what you did, or maybe ways that those initiatives on the essay have grown over time. Or you can just, tell them completely different stories than the essay. But the point of this is in the interview, you should focus on getting as much new information to them as possible so they have a complete picture, right? So both aspects are very important. And how to prepare. First of all, you want to reflect on your story. Just take some time to think about what were your biggest leadership moments? What were your biggest contributions to the team? Outreach experiences. What experiences were you the most proud of in your robotics career? And so that's going to be very crucial in this next step is you want to make sure you read the nomination essay. Please read the essay, because judges are often going to base questions on the essay. So know what your mentor talked about with you, because a judge might ask, oh yeah, I noticed this example on your essay. Can you elaborate more on that? Because we want to know more about it. And so you want to know what your mentor wrote about you. Some people have said that their judges didn't ask too many questions at all based on the essay, and that they asked, strictly like more open-ended questions that weren't specific to a candidate, or they might have done a combination. Like first they went into more general questions, then they went very specifically into things that they've done or based off of answers that they said in the interview. My interview, I think it was super duper specific. I didn't get questions like, how are you a good leader? Things like that. It was very concentrated on specific examples. So it's really your mileage may vary on that. Another big thing is practice speaking. You want to conduct mock interviews with mentors or teammates to build confidence and polish your answers. I remember in 10th grade, I was nominated to be a semifinalist. I didn't really do a mock interview at all. And then I just went into the interview and it was not a very great. I'm an extrovert. I would say that I love speaking. And that was still a very it was kind of a disastrous interview. It was a positive experience, but it could have been more efficient on my part and been better communication. So, no matter who you are, make sure to practice the stories you're going to tell. Make sure you know how to think on the spot. And know the different first core values. So there's discovery, innovation, impact, fun, just those first core values. So when you're trying to brainstorm stories that you want to tell the judges or stories your mentor might want to include on the essay, really be prepared to explain or tie those things back to the first core values. Like, are you someone that likes to include people? Do you like teamwork? What are ways you've brought fun to the team? How have you innovated on your team? Things like that. And so the way that I went about doing this is I looked at the first core values and I was like, okay, well, what stories do I have that hit on one or more of these or as many of these as possible? Because, core values are literally like a rubric for how they evaluate you. But also don't get too carried away on like specific stories. Like if there's a story that you think doesn't like hit all the values, really don't worry about it. Choose the ones that are most important to you because they're not looking to penalize you on it. They don't have like a chart out like with the core values. Be like, oh, they check off this part, they check off this part. Oh, they didn't check off this part. I want to dock them for it. Really, it's a very holistic process. So don't worry about it. And finally, be yourself and tell your story. Because authenticity matters a lot more than perfection. You want to show how much you love first. You want to show that you've reflected on your experiences. I think that the interview is really a celebration of all of the work that you put into first so far. Because you put in that work on your team, your teammates have just held you up and celebrated you as one of the best student leaders on their team. And now you were prepared to share that with judges that want to know more about you. It's really a celebration. So be prepared to celebrate. Go into it with a celebration mode is my advice. These are some common interview questions. Judges can ask kind of whatever questions they want to ask, but I can almost guarantee that all the questions are going to be subsets of these questions. So the first category is like, what does first mean to you? This could be something different, like how do you get involved in first, or why do you do first? So the way that I approached it was I thought about the first time that I was exposed to first to establish a personal connection. I thought about my motivation. Why do I do first? Is there a story that changed how much I wanted to do first, and how it shaped your leadership? Like how has first impacted you as a person? So my advice would be to think about it in 3 levels. How has first impacted you as a person? How have you used first to impact your team? And how have you used first to impact your community? So I think those are 3 levels, really good levels to reflect on. And they might say, describe a time you demonstrated leadership. And you can just very clearly use a specific example. This could be on the robot. This could be an outreach. Show a specific example of you showing you initiated something that you initiated on your own and then got more people involved in that initiative, or how you might have solved a problem. They're going to might ask you, what project are you the most proud of? Or really, what are you the most proud of in first? And really, this is, I think, the most open-ended answer. You can highlight technical skills, you can highlight impact, you can highlight your role in achieving team success. But really, this is your chance to tell them the thing that you've just been dying to tell them like all year. Like this is just something that you're really, really proud of. You want to nerd out about it to them. And how have you inspired or mentored others? This could be within your own team, like how an approach you took or a story about how you coached a teammate, or an outreach story. Like, for example, I think I talked about how I mentored a first Lego League team and the specific experiences that I got from mentoring them and things that they taught me. So it could even be how you got inspired by others. And I think mostly they will ask you a category of this question is, how will you continue First's mission in the future? And this doesn't have to be a super elaborate answer at all. It's super simple. Like, when I am in college, I might not want to mentor a team, but I want to continue volunteering at First events, or I want to start FRC teams in the future or FTC teams. Variety of ways you can emphasize this, or maybe you want to help with with alumni initiatives in First. Really, so many ways to go about it. Again, this is kind of what judges are listening for, is they're looking for genuine passion, genuine impact and evidence of this impact, and the student's ability to like communicate, because good communicators are really who are going to be the best first ambassadors, because they're able to get ideas across and make a very big impact in that limited 10 minutes. So I think that's a little bit by nature. And then the future potential, like we just talked about. Interview best practices. You can be as creative or casual as you like in terms of dress code. Really, judges understand that you're there with your team. Dean's List is likely not the only thing you came to that regional for. You're there with your team. You likely have some other role, so you can just show up wearing your team shirt or normal team dress code. If your team outfit is like a banana costume, it's fine. If you were, the judges want to see who you really are, right? So I mean, you could even be creative with that. And then be confident and positive. You want to maintain good posture, make eye contact with the judges, and just show your enthusiasm. But at the end of the day, don't stress too much about posture or that those kinds of specifics, because judges are there to give you an opportunity to convey your experience. So it's really not about that, but it's going to help you be more confident. Tell stories and not lists, right? Don't just go into the interview and be like, hey, judge, okay, so starting off in like 9th grade, I did this and I did this and I did this. It's not about saying lists. It's about using specific examples to illustrate your leadership, your teamwork, and your impact, and really make sure to tell them, why are you doing these things? And practice active listening, right? The way that I did things for the interview is I kind of had 3 to 5 stories that I really wanted to make sure I told the judges. But even with those stories you want to cover in the interview, you should still answer the judges' questions that they asked you. So if they ask about like outreach, don't start talking about something you did technically on your robot. Try to find a way to incorporate one of your stories into that question. Or if the question doesn't, connect to any of your stories, answer the question and then find a way to segue into that story. And just stay relaxed, right? It's not a job interview. It's not one of those really high stakes interviews. They just want to see who you really are. It's not a rehearsed performance. Everybody in that room is there for the betterment of first. They're there to promote a positive experience. So key takeaways, teams, please nominate your leaders, because if you take away anything from this presentation, it is that it's a very impactful thing to do. And there's no such thing as, oh, I don't have anyone qualified on my team, because like I've said, the examples I've stated, there are so many different examples of ways you can answer each question in the essay. Tell stories, not resumes. You want to really, go deep into specific stories, transformational moments. Judges value genuine passion, genuine personality, genuine commitment. And you want to make sure to balance STEM and leadership and outreach, whatever it is. Don't talk overtly about one thing. It's really about hitting on all the different ways that you're involved in first. And start early. I think now is a great time. Like right now in November is a peak time to start identifying potential Dean's List candidates. And if you do it early, you're going to have a very comfortable process. You wouldn't want to work on your swerve drive the night before the competition. Maybe some of you do. I mean, I've been guilty of that in the past. That's fine. But you don't want to do that for your semifinalist essay. You really want to give time to sort out the nomination process and make the best application you can. Resources plus Q&A. I think we're in a platform where we can go through some resources real quick because we have time. But the first top one that I recommend is the 2026 First Robotics Competition Dean's List Award Guide that First gives out. And that goes over the criteria of the award, what the award is, interview practices, essay practices, really everything for mentors and students. I think I would be a good resource. So I've included my email there. YPP, if you're over 18, you must CC another adult to the email. But yeah, that is my email that you can reach out to for if you want to schedule mock interviews. I'd be happy to do it. And that is my team email if you want to reach out to me that way. And so yeah, those are just some resources. And now I want to open up the floor to questions or any comments, thoughts, concerns that coaches and students have. Yeah.
Well, first of all, Mahi, excellent job. This was so good, and your delivery was excellent. One of the things that I was curious about is that in a couple of different slides, you said this is what judges are looking for. This is how judges are going to evaluate. How did you learn that? Who explained to you what the judges are looking for in terms of the advice that you're giving everyone?
Yeah, so I searched it up. I searched it up. I searched up First Dean's List Award, and my mentor actually used this. Like last year, it was the 2025 FRC Dean's List Award Guide, and that guide went pretty into detail about all the criteria and what each of the essay questions are. And then after that, I was able to develop some connections to the previous year's FRC Dean's List winners, with like mutual friends that had contacted them. So, and also I did some mock interviews with one of No Mythic's Dean's List finalists, and he was really helpful. He was offering mock interviews. So really, it doesn't have to be a Dean's List winner that you do a mock interview with, but really anybody that knows what questions to ask is going to be a great resource. Is really doing mock interviews, and they can give really good feedback on what they were able to note down. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's nice to know, where this information is coming from. Is not that I didn't believe you, but I was curious because some of these things on here I had not heard before, and I admit I hadn't done the research. So it's good to know where those came from.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the other things that you had said is you were encouraging mentors to make sure they share the essay with their students so they can see it ahead of time. I'm pretty sure it's required. I think there's a checkbox on the submission form that you have to certify that your submission student has read the complete essay. So
yeah, I agree with that. It is required. But okay. It does certainly happen for some teams. They tell me, yeah, my mentor forgot to show me the essay. Like they forgot, like the first time they read the essay was when first contacted them about the essay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I forgot to mention that it's a requirement. You should show your essay to your team and to your student, so they certify the accuracy of what is being talked about. And one more thing that I found was really, really helpful. We can go over it in this call if we want, but there is a Judging the Dean's List Award manual on the internet about what judges look for in a nominee, both in essays and in the interview, and kind of the way that they I think the portal that they answer questions about, and I think they have some ratings does this finalist is this finalist what they talk about in the essay, some variation of that question. And there's a strongly agree, somewhat agree, disagree, scales like that. And then I think some text boxes for judges to talk about things they might not have seen in the essay that you brought up in the interview. So that's one more resource that I was able to use.
So I'd like to jump in and give a slightly different perspective on all this. I've been nominating students since 2013. We've had 8 finalists and 1 championship winner on the team in that time. And in 2021, I was a judge for Dean's List. So I got to read through 20 or 30 different essays and select some of them while we were all doing those at-home challenges and such, which that happened to be a year my team didn't submit anyone. So it was easy for me to be a judge because I couldn't volunteer at events either. As a judge and reading those essays, I could tell you we want specific examples. I can't tell you how many of those essays, probably half of them, were more fluff pieces than examples. There was nothing for me as a judge to bite into. And if you get that, then you're falling back on more generic questions to ask on. When people give you specific examples, then you have something specific to ask about, which can help the nominee prepare because they know what they're going to be asked about with those examples. You want to try and keep those examples a little short, right? Give your nominee room to expand on them. Don't try and say everything about 1 or 2 things, say a little bit about 6 or 7 things so that your nominee has room to expand. And when you're doing your interviews, I personally prefer using the STAR methodology for answering questions. That is describing the situation, describing what your task is, what you have to accomplish, what actions you took, and then what the results are. It's sort of a formulaic way of telling your story. And like you said, telling the story really, really is important. Even when you're writing the essay, which it's a little harder with the different prompts, having that connecting theme going throughout the essay to say, this person was a leader right from day one, and tying everything back to that, or this person really had some growth, or this person was really great at pulling people in. Tying all that together to tell that story really helps that individual stand apart from things that might be a little bit more generic.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And due to your experience, is there some more advice you have in terms of like interviews? Anything that I might not have covered, because I realize that you're probably like a great resource in terms of interviews right now.
Yeah, practice. Go through as many interviews as you can. Have parents interview you, teachers interview you, mentors interview you. Reach out for interviews, from other teams. There is a Dean's List Discord that offers interviews as well. If you need that, I do have access to that, and I'm willing to share that with anyone who would like. So you can reach out to me either through my team 2177, on Chief Delphi, or wherever. I'd be happy to share that as well.
And about that Discord server, there was the 2024, like the one with the 2024 Dean's List winners like last year. This new year, we are planning to change like the way that we're doing that. We're kind of balancing a few different things right now. Like we're thinking about doing this on maybe the main FRC server and finding a way to integrate getting Dean's List resources out through that server, as well as for FTC people on the FTC main server. And one more thing is we're trying to transition away from Discord and put it on firstdeanslist.org and find a way to integrate practice interviews through there, because it's going to be more helpful to sort out YPP and things like that. So I'm not sure if that's the server you're talking about, but that server that was there last year, it's temporarily shut down before we send out a new hopefully improved version.
Awesome. And hopefully it's easier for people to find too.
Yeah, because I think it was a great resource for the people that were able to find it, because they were able to do practice interviews with so many knowledgeable people, and that'll be a great resource for hopefully as much of the first community to get.
The only other thing I would add is when you go into an interview, you can bring stuff with you. You can't leave it with the judges, but bring evidence. Bring pictures of you at outreach events. Bring printouts of the CAD you've worked on. The stuff that shows you're passionate and energetic about, and that you can really use as a launching point into your stories, and that can really help you get through your interviews and give you that real physical evidence that the judges can really appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. I agree a lot with that. Is there any other questions that people have or comments they want to make?
Mahi, can you share a little bit of what's happened to you since you've won the award at Champs?
Yeah, for sure. So after the luncheon at Champs, I think the first thing that immediately happened was that you get invited to a Slack or a community of a lot of the Dean's List winners from previous years. So I've been able to connect with Dean's List winners as far as like 15 years back, like from the first year the award was started. And the goal when you join this first Dean's List Alumni Association, you get an opportunity to work with first leaders and a lot of the other Dean's List winners on alumni initiatives, because after high school, Dean's List winners are all over the world, all over the country, and they're in a unique position to track alumni and do alumni initiatives, which is one of the biggest outcomes of the award. After that, during that summer, First invites you to a Dean's List Summit, and the Dean's List Summit is so First flies you and a mentor / parent out to First HQ in New Hampshire, and there the first day is you get to tour MIT. And then when you come back, you get to go to Dean's house. And at Dean's house, there is something called the Supporter Summit. And that happens to coincide with the first Dean's List Summit. And that summit, there's like 200 different suppliers. There I met, I got to finally meet Matt Town's head coach, RC, owner of WCP. He was so gracious to give me this hat I have. It's my new favorite hat. I love the hat. There was Rev there. There was Qualcomm, really like all of the major suppliers of First, and it's like a dinner for them. And I was selected out of the 20 Dean's List winners, 10 from FRC, 10 from FTC, to be able to give a speech at Dean's house along with Dean and the CEO, Chris Moore. And the thing that resulted from that is they sat me next to Dean, and that was one of the craziest conversations, just one of the best conversations I've had in my life, because I really, love innovation. I love entrepreneurship. So I was able to get a lot of advice from him on just where I am right now and about how I could be more impactful in First, and just a lot of advice, because I think that conversation might have lasted like an hour or something like that. So after that night kind of ends, the next day you, what is the first thing you do? Yeah, you get to be on a panel. Like I think the 10 Dean's List winners from FRC, 10 from FTC sit on this panel. And a lot of the suppliers like Rev, CTRE, WCP, just all the suppliers that exist for First, they get to ask the Dean's List winners questions about like First or their experiences with their products, just a variety of things. Like they get to basically talk or interact with the youth representatives of all of First. Immediately preceding that, for the FRC Dean's List winners, FTC people, they go and record a video for their kickoff, but we got to sit on a panel with the FRC Game Design Committee. And no, I don't know what the next game is. They're like super strict about not telling us any aspect of the game, but we were able to really interact with them about the thought process that went behind previous games they've made, or things they've learned from designing all the games, and things that they hope to do in the future when designing these games. So that was just a very, I think that might have been one of my favorite parts of that summit, is because I have certain games that I have really like a preference for, and I love digging into their brains, like asking them, how did you come up with this aspect? What was your reaction to this team doing this and this in your game? Did you expect that? So a lot of good conversations there. After that, we all got to have another panel with Dean Kamen, and the focus of that was just about talking about ways that, like, what's next for us as Dean's List winners? How can we be really, really impactful in doing more for First going forward? And just generally, like, what the 2025 Dean's List winners could have for our project to engage alumni. And then, I think after that, we got a dinner from Yale's Deputy Dean of Engineering, and he was able to give a presentation about Yale. And then we had WPI do a talk, and that was the summit. And I think the favorite part for me about that summit is I got to meet so many Dean's List winners from all over the world. And that was just, I think I found like friends for life. So easily the best part about the award is the connections that it has opened up and the people you get to meet. Anybody else have any questions, any advice they need about the award?
We have some students on the call. Any students have any questions about Dean's List submission or the process? Mahi, have you started to see an influx of mail from universities and such related to the fact that you were a winner?
Not related to the fact that I was a winner. No, not yet. I don't really think they get access to our emails as Dean's List winners. Certainly you get to make a ton of connections when you go like meet those colleges at the summit, like when you tour MIT and when you meet with Yale. And so you get connections in terms of that. But I think that the impact of the award isn't really like, I can't speak for sure about the impact of that award on college applications or anything like that. Mainly because, first of all, I haven't gotten any decisions. And even if I did get any decisions, I can't kind of pinpoint whether it was because of the award itself having some kind of, value, or because just the correlation part of it. Because I think a lot of the students that win that at the world's level, they definitely did a lot of other cool things, or the actual things they did that resulted in that award was very impactful for colleges to see. One thing that I do know that college people told me during that summit is that their favorite aspect about the award isn't necessarily the fact that you were a finalist of it or a winner of it at Worlds. It's the fact that your team and your mentors recognized your growth over many years in your high school career, and they held you up and they nominated you as a Dean's List semifinalist. So yeah, I guess not necessarily an answer to that question, but one thing I did want to stress is that even if you're a Dean's List semifinalist, you were already a top contender for these colleges. They're going to love you because, it's not like necessarily winning a medal at a science fair. It's not like an Olympiad medal. It's a lot more of a holistic award. You can't study for that award. You can't, do the things that it's not like a project you work on, right? It's a student-driven process, but it's a process driven by other people, like your team, your coach, and then at the other levels, judges that can speak and as to what you've done. So yeah, I guess hopefully the award has impact on college applications, but I guess we're gonna have to see the fate of that.
It's interesting because my daughter was a finalist. She won in Duluth. I don't even remember, 2017, 2018, something like that. And we got inundated with physical mail from colleges, because I'm pretty sure back then first was giving / selling to universities their Dean's List winner mailing lists. I don't know how that works, but that's interesting and probably a good thing that they stopped distributing that information, I would say. Unfortunate for the student, right? Because you want to be recruited by the best schools. But on the other hand, it was a bit overwhelming. So it's interesting that has changed.
Yeah, certainly I think that, it's not, I think I'm not really sure about, that I think at the beginning they had an emphasis on the award. It was very prominent part of marketing. This award is for colleges and universities that desire to recruit Dean's List students. Now that's still a part of the college, the description of the award. But it's not, I think that the award is, not that it carries any less, significance to colleges or universities, but I think they've switched that a lot more to you as a person and made it more strictly in first context. But I do hope what you're saying is true. I can only really hope that the award, gets me hopefully places.
Yeah, and depending on where you go, and there certainly are a lot of universities that are very interested in the Dean's List winner, I think it will make a very large impact. I feel like maybe the recruiting's not quite so simple as it used to be, where you were just on a mailing list and you got flooded with mail. So I agree with you, though. I think the impact is going to be significant. My daughter's also got to meet other finalists. She didn't win at champs, so therefore she's not on all the insider groups that you are. But she's talked to people over the years, and the impact has been significant for them when they went to interview and shared their experience with First. So yeah, nothing but good things, right? How could it be a bad thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, it has a lot to do with the experiences that you've gotten. So being able to market that and being able to tell the story behind the award and what you've done in First is going to be very important. In terms of scholarships, First Robotics has on there, they have a scholarships site, and they have a few scholarships that are available. And in those scholarships, if any are very First Robotics specific, I would think that, being a semifinalist, finalist, or a winner is going to help you out in those scholarships. But yeah, and I know that with the award, Dean Kamen does write you a letter of rec, but it wasn't very personalized. But I know that it carries, it might carry some decent amount of weight at companies. Maybe it's not a very good thing to include for colleges, because they want to really have letters of rec from people that truly know you as a person and that have witnessed your growth, like teachers and coaches. But I would think that his explanation in that rec letter about what the award means, why he did it, is going to hopefully carry weight in terms of opportunities after college. Yeah, Everett?
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's like a lot of people that are worthy of winning, like the Dean's List Award.
Mhm.
But what sets like a finalist apart from a Dean's List finalist or a Dean's
Yeah.
List winner? Like what gives you that extra edge?
Yeah, for sure. I think first, but the difference between semifinalists and finalists, a lot of the difference between semifinalists and finalists is going to depend on your interview. Because I think going in to the like regional, there's going to be multiple. There's going to definitely be more than 2 finalists that have a really good essay that hits on all of the points that would make a good finalist. But I think the 2 finalists they choose are going to be the ones that make a positive impact on the judges and just leave them being like, I wish I had this person on my team kind of effect. At the champs level, it's really like, I still think the answer might be a lot about the interview. Certainly it's going to be about, I know that if you start like, your own initiatives, starting initiatives, starting really impactful initiatives is certainly going to make you stand out at champs and just being like different, right? I think it's a lot of the same stuff as college applications. It's really about finding like maybe you've done something really really different, or you've started an initiative that has never existed before in first, and that helps you win at champs. I'm not sure, but I do know that the process between finalist and winner is a lot of luck, right? Like I know people that surely, and I mean, I don't want to see who deserves it or doesn't deserve it, but I know semifinalists that totally could have, if they were a winner, I totally would not have been surprised at all because they've done a lot for first. And so just really it's a lot of luck, right? You have a 10-minute interview. You might have a bad day, or your judges might not, like they might not necessarily note down the things that you thought were most, or maybe you forget to cover an aspect about what you did, right? So a lot of it is going to come down to communication and luck, right? Communication, as in you end up conveying what you absolutely wanted to convey to the judges, and it ended up working. Like they thought those examples were great, and then that's going to have the same effect at champs. And then you might have a bad day, and you might not have gotten to cover the aspects that you wanted to cover. Just a whole list of things that could affect finalist and winner. So I wouldn't really like standing out certainly helps, doing really important things. Me personally, if we were to talk about what I did, I personally think that I volunteered a lot. Like just to say what I think, I mean, what went into what I inputted to the award process. But I did have a lot of like legislation going in. Like I was involved in first legislative initiatives, like authoring a bill, doing initiatives with the MN government and with Governor Walds. And then I think my mentoring probably helped. But I think more than all that, I think none of that was necessarily what got me to win that award at that level. It was really the interview. I really enjoyed the interview. I think the conversation was really, really nice. It went both ways. The judges were interested in me as a person. And I guess, yeah, I just think I had a good interview, and that probably set me apart at the champs level.
A quick note on the process from going from finalist to winner at champs. You only get interviewed at the regional. You do not interview again at champs. So when you get to that champs level, it is basically the group of judges at champs reading your essay and reading whatever the judges you talked to at your regional had to say about you and your interview. So there's sort of a step removed there. And unfortunately, as a nominee, you can't control what the judges write about you or how well they convey how your interview went or anything of that nature.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like at the winner level, I think as the like award progresses, it's more and more about luck, because at the winner level, the judges literally never meet you as a person. Like they've literally never met you, right? It's really all about what your coaches wrote about you, and then what some judges that you met for 10 minutes at a regional say about you. And so there's it's a very luck-based process at that level, because they just never meet you in person. Regional, same, a little bit less luck, but still a lot of luck, because again, these are judges that probably don't know you outside of that 10 minutes. So it's not, I mean, I'm going to be honest, there's really not a way to encompass everything, all the awesome parts about who you are as a person within those 10 minutes. So again, I want to reemphasize that for me, the most like meaningful part about the process was being a semifinalist because because the people that knew me the most and that have seen my growth, that have seen my leadership, chose to nominate me. And so, I think beyond that level, it's just luck, Yeah.
Mahi, in your essay or as part of your judging, was there any discussion or questions about what you wanted to do after high school or maybe even after college, and how that may play into how you respond to judges or what gets included in the essay?
Yeah, that's going to be I think it's going to be a significant enough part of the whole process. So on the essay, one thing that I noted was that I had like a specific thing. Like I wanted to start FRC teams in underserved areas, and I was able to connect that during the interview. I was like, I've already started an FLL team in this area that had no first before. And I did this and this, and I was able to connect a past experience that I had, which was evidence that I would have the same passion going forward, that I want to continue doing that after college. And I think I think some people didn't even talk about some people didn't even talk about first. Like they never said that, I absolutely want to coach after college or anything like that. It was pretty simple. Like they were like, when I go to my university, wherever that is, I might want to start let's say I go to UW-Madison. Maybe I want to start a UW-Madison Times First Club, which I don't know if there's already one there or not, but an example, right? Or like I want to volunteer at a couple events, things like that. So just having some kind of like specificity on how you want to be involved is going to play. I think Mr. Stratus here could confirm if that like plays a big part as what you explain, how you explain what your alumni goals are.
Yeah, that's always a hard one, because you're saying this is what I'm going to do in the future, as opposed to providing a specific example of what you've already done. So when I'm talking to students we nominate, I try to help them understand what they've already done that shows what they'll do in the future. As an example, our team mentors our school's FLL team, right? And so if we have students who regularly go to those FLL meetings and mentor students there, that can show that willingness to continue to mentor into the future. We've had students who have volunteered to help run FTC events in the past, and things of that nature. So being able to show what you've done that points towards what you will be doing can certainly be a great help.
Yeah, one example that just came to my mind is that one story that I like, or one thing that I really wanted to talk about is, and this couldn't be elaborated upon in my essay because I emceed at FTC qualifiers, and on the essay it said, yeah, he's emceed at FTC qualifiers, and that's it, right? Or he wants to continue doing that in the future. But in the interview, I really wanted to talk about how that makes me feel. But I was like, emceeing is my favorite volunteer role ever because I like turning even matches where nothing is happening, like a dead match, to an Einstein's level energy. Like I want those kids to feel the same level of energy as, the like Orbit or whoever wins, Einstein's at champs, right? So that's one thing that I really wanted to highlight is that I did that thing, but I wanted to highlight why I did that thing or the thing that I enjoyed the most. So I think that probably played a huge part or factored in a lot.
I think that the students that I've talked to who have gone the furthest, and I admit, I think there's only two that I know, I got the impression that the longevity of your involvement with First played a big role, at least in their opinion. It felt like they felt like my commitment to being part of First forever. It seemed to them they felt like, how am I going to say this? It felt like that was a major impact to the ability to get to that final level of the Dean's List. But again, it's all anecdotes and kind of bias. So I'm not sure how real that is for everyone.
It's certainly real. Like, I mean, if we're looking purely like at a pattern level, everyone that I've talked to in the network has been like, yeah, we had a concrete plan to not a concrete plan, but we were able to express our concrete interest in continuing engagement with FIRST. So I think it's definitely a way that you can stand. I'm not saying that just for this reason you should be saying like a way that you absolutely should be covering why you want to be in FIRST, because like ultimately you can't you really can't like hold high schoolers to that. Like you're being interviewed in what 10th or 11th grade. Your essay is going to say, I want to start FRC teams after I do college, but you grow so significantly and you change so significantly during that time that there's really no way to like say, yeah, this person is definitely going to start so-and-so or do so-and-so for FIRST, compared to just looking at existing examples like this person's already done so-and-so. But I think one more thing about the award is that like it's not just about who you already are. It's about what your potential is and like what your future potential is. And I think that it's kind of like a parallel with college applications. I'm not sure if you could say this about the Dean's List Award, but when colleges accept you to their university, my impression is it's not about necessarily what you've already done, but in what context you've done them. And if you were given the resources of this college, what do you have the potential to do with them? So I think that might carry over into the Dean's List Award, is that colleges aren't sure either whether this student is actually going to continue a lot of the things they did in high school and continue it in college. But based on several indicators, like let's say you had a lot of indicators in your essay and in your interview that you truly loved FIRST and you've had such a deep involvement in FIRST, there's stronger suggestions that what you say you're going to do after college, you're actually going to do those things. So for example, if you have a bunch of generic examples or you really weren't that involved on your team and that shows off in your essay, on your interview, and then you go and tell them, well, I want to put an FRC team and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put an FRC team in every high school and elementary school on the planet. Clearly that's not going to it's not going to be noted down as, yeah, this person has the best alumni goal, so I want to make this person winner at Worlds, right? It doesn't work like that. I feel like in my experience, if I was a judge, which I'm not, I can't confirm this, but if I was a judge, I'd be looking at all of the other signs of what they've displayed, attributes they've displayed, and then seeing whether their goals right now really hold up.
Mahi, can you share with us what the nomination process looks like for your team?
Yeah, for my team,
students input, mostly mentors. How does that work?
It's really mostly mentors. Students did have a part in it. Like some of the captains or like seniors sometimes have like a say in it. Because if you have like a freshman that's on the team, that could be like a really good like way to like be like, hey, how is this senior on the team or this junior on the team impacted your experience in FIRST so far? And that could be a way that they have a say. But I think my mentors mostly just nominated me by themselves, but the team really was rooting for me for it too. So there wasn't really any structure. There wasn't like, here's an application, here is an interview. I was the only semifinalist on my team when I was nominated. And funny story is I joined my current FRC team in September 2024, and I was on a different FRC team 2 years before that and captain of that team. When I joined this new team, I actually did not have a leadership role yet, but I was able to get significant enough work done between September and December that, yeah, when the mentors were like, yeah, Mahi's going to be nominated for Dean's List, the team was able to get behind that. So there was not so much of a structure. So yes. And then that goes again to say that it's not about the title that you have or any of those other awards you might have won or things like that. It's solely about concrete things that you did. Like, I don't think there's not a single time on that essay or in the interview where I was like, yeah, I'm captain or I have this title or that title. It was very purely about things that I've done or specific examples that I showed that they were able to kind of pick out like, yeah, they were able to say that he's a leader without me having to say I have so-and-so title. But yeah, to answer your question, my team does not have a process for it because there just hasn't been a very big sample size. Like, I don't think my team has absolutely nominated someone for Dean's List every single year. I hope that's a thing going forward. But I mean, maybe Nightcrawler has a process. Like, what process do you guys have?
So at Nightcrawler, the mentors usually have a meeting and we discuss, who are our top candidates, and it doesn't necessarily have to be two. It might be more than two candidates. And then we seek student input. And sometimes students show us something that we hadn't observed, and that makes an impact on who bubbles up to the top 2 students that we submit. But we generally, in parallel, will have the meetings start discussing who do we think are our best candidates for Dean's List, and then in parallel, we'll be surveying the students, saying, for Dean's List this year. And sometimes, like you said, the new students might not know, but boy, those Dean's List candidates might have had a very large impact on those first-year students on the team. And so we collect that input, and then that drives our decision making. And a lot of times it can be very difficult to narrow it down to the 2 students that you're willing to submit. We have a rather large team. So that's one of the challenges that comes with having a large team, is that sometimes you have too many students that you would like to nominate, and you have to select no more than 2. But I'm curious, we have other teams on the call. Anyone else have a Dean's List process that their team follows?
Yeah, so my team, we ask the students to self-nominate. So they send the mentors an email telling us why they think they should be a Dean's List semifinalist. And so that gives us sort of our short list of who should we be considering. And that's been, enough for the mentors to make a selection at that point. We do reach out to other students to, get their feedback. It can be great to include a quote from a current student about that individual. If they give you something that's really workable, it can really stand out in a nomination. So that's certainly useful.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great way to show that your team nominated you, is including specific quotes and have it literally be a student, a team driven process. I know some people have for both Woody Flowers and Dean's List is for Woody Flowers, they might have leads on the nomination process for that award. And it could be hey, this aspect of this mentor quote Ethan from 2531 or something like that. And I've seen that same thing in some Dean's List essays where they're they'll introduce a certain aspect about the candidate, and then they will say support that. They don't literally say to support that, but to support that, they have a quote being this teammate had such a profound impact on me, and the story was that this teammate, this semifinalist, did this for me, and this is the impact they've had on me. And I think those quotes have been oftentimes very, very powerful. To hear it from a student themselves, an external source, what impact the semifinalists had.
Do any other teams want to share their process? I have a piece of advice that I'll share. This is my 11th season with Nightcrawler. And in that time, we have had a student who the mentors and students alike all agreed this was a good candidate for the Dean's List. And that student wanted to decline and was very hesitant to be nominated and didn't feel like they deserved that nomination, and then went on to be a finalist. So I think that it's not unusual for those students who are great leaders to be so humble that they don't think they're good enough to be submitted. And so I'm very happy that we were able to encourage that student to accept the nomination and to be nominated, because that student certainly deserved it. And the judges agreed. But I think it's important to keep in mind too, that sometimes our best leaders are too humble to realize what a great leader they are.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also one more thing that on top of that is that leadership takes many, many different forms. And so the people that are necessarily they're doing the stand-up leading for every single shop session that you have. They're always the ones at the front of the board, or they're always leading this big project. That's one form of leadership. That's great. But if you guys, you shouldn't have to dig so far for semifinalists, because there's another form of leadership where students like to keep more to themselves, and they might be at the back of the room, but they're putting in just as much work. And then maybe they're helping other students one-on-one, and they're always a good resource for students. And so I've certainly seen many of those students win the Dean's List award at the champs level. So, being extroverted also and being like super like authoritative, like that doesn't correlate with the award or imply any causality with the award either. So it's really about, anything is really leadership, as long as you're able to portray, why you lead in that way and the measurable results that leadership had.
Well, we're getting down to the wire here. Let's take, anyone else have any final questions or comments they want to share before we wrap things up tonight? Final call, anyone?
I have one comment. Nominate your team members. Nominate them for the Dean's List Award.
For sure. And you'd be surprised. There was a regional last year that had four. So if there was a regional that only had 4 submissions last year, that very well may have come from only 2 teams. So please, mentors, students, encourage that to happen, so that you have students submitted for the Dean's List at your regionals. Only good things can come from moving on to the next level. All right, with that, please, everyone, please give Mahi a round of applause here. Claps on the screen. Fantastic presentation, very well put together, chock full of great information. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on and doing this for us. All right. Well, next week we have another first official presentation organized by First. I cannot remember which one it is, but if you sign up for the mailing list on team2052.com/roundtable, you can sign up for the mailing list. I send out a reminder email with whatever the session is going to be on Fridays, and you will get that information. Actually, wait a minute. I have the list up right here. Next week's presentation is going to be about, here it is. Oh, project management for an FRC robot build. Excellent. So get all your build students on here, get your programmers on there so they can get the robot before the 2 days before the regional, the day before the regional. Let's get some good project management happening next week. All right, with that, I hope everyone has a great night, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's FRC Roundtable. Join us live all season long, every Sunday night. Visit the website at team2052.com/roundtable to sign up for weekly invites. In the meantime, keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you next week.